Let me be blunt with you. If you don't set boundaries early in a relationship, you're going to get walked over. And I don't just mean small things like letting her pick the restaurant every time. I mean your time, your energy, your respect, all of it. The truth is, women notice how much you allow and tolerate. If you give too much too soon, if you bend over backward to keep her happy, she'll start taking it for granted. She doesn't even mean to be cruel. It's human nature. But it becomes a problem when a man can't say no, when he can't protect his own space, and when he doesn't show that he values himself first. Here's what most men don't understand. Women aren't looking for control, but we are drawn to men who can control themselves and their lives. When you let boundaries slip, it doesn't make you nice. It makes you invisible. You lose your magnetic energy, and suddenly, she's walking all over you without even realizing it. I'm going to break this down for you in a way that actually makes sense. You'll hear the truth about what women notice, what we respond to, and what pushes us away faster than you can imagine. This isn't about being rigid or cold. It's about having the backbone to say, "This is who I am, and I won't let anyone overstep." By the end of this video, you're going to understand the 7 boundaries that matter most to a woman, and why you need to set them before it's too late. We're talking about respect, attention, time, and emotional energy. If you ignore these, you're not just hurting your chances with her, you're undermining your own value. So listen closely. Stop guessing what she wants, or thinking that being too nice will win her over. There's a line between being kind and being walked on, and it's time you learn where that line is. 1. Stop letting her dictate your time. One of the first things a woman notices, whether she admits it or not, is how a man manages his time. If you're constantly dropping everything for her, rearranging your plans, or canceling on friends and commitments just to please her, it sends a clear message. Your time isn't valuable. And when a man's time isn't valuable, a woman unconsciously starts testing boundaries. She begins to assume she can pull you whenever she wants, whenever it's convenient for her, and you'll say yes. I remember a guy I knew who would always cancel his weekend plans with his friends if his girlfriend wanted to hang out. At first it seemed sweet, right? But after a while, it became predictable. She started asking for more, expecting him to be available whenever she felt like it. He thought he was showing devotion, but what he was really showing was that he had no personal limits. And here's the kicker. Once she sensed that, her attraction subtly started to shift. He became someone she relied on for convenience, not someone she deeply respected or felt drawn to. Women are wired to notice availability, but not just in a "I want to see him more" way. We notice it as a measure of value. A man who protects his schedule, who has priorities outside the relationship, who makes her fit into his life rather than the other way around, instantly commands respect. It doesn't mean you ignore her or act distant. It means you have a life she can't monopolize. You're creating a dynamic where she has to step up, show interest, and respect your boundaries if she wants your time. Here's the truth most men don't hear. Being too available early kills attraction. Women don't want a man who melts at every request. We want a man who is deliberate, intentional, and strong enough to have his own rhythm. It's magnetic. It communicates that your life has structure, purpose, and self-respect. So, start small. Keep your appointments, your weekend plans, your personal projects. Don't cancel your life for her whims. If she texts you late at night, expecting you to drop everything, it's okay to say no or reschedule. It's not rude. It's necessary. The more you protect your time, the more she sees your value, and the more respect and attraction she develops naturally. At the end of the day, a man who allows his time to be dictated loses power in the relationship before it even begins. Protect it, value it, and she'll notice in ways that go far beyond words. 2. Protect your emotional energy or lose respect. Men often underestimate how much women pick up on emotional energy. We can feel when a man is drained, desperate, or constantly bending over backward to fix everything for us. It's not attractive. It signals that you don't have emotional boundaries, and that you allow others, including her, to drain you without consequence. Here's the thing. A man who constantly sacrifices his emotional stability for a woman loses the invisible edge that makes him desirable. Women are naturally drawn to men who are confident, calm, and grounded. If she senses that her moods, her drama, or her constant demands dictate your emotional state, she will unconsciously begin to take you for granted. She doesn't have to consciously think, I can walk all over him. She'll just do it naturally, because there are no boundaries to stop her. Emotional boundaries aren't about being cold or disconnected. They're about self-respect. They're about knowing where your limits are and calmly enforcing them. If she texts you angrily or expects you to solve her problem immediately, you don't have to react like she's the center of your universe. You can respond with patience, but also with your own stability in place. You set the tone. She mirrors your energy, whether she admits it or not. Another mistake men make is over-explaining themselves emotionally. Women don't want a man who constantly justifies his every action or defends himself at every turn. That weakens attraction. Emotional boundaries mean you decide what's worthy of discussion and what isn't. It means holding space for her feelings without losing yourself in them. Respect comes from consistency. If you're emotionally available but not emotionally malleable, if you care without letting her dictate your inner world, you create a magnetic balance. She feels your strength without feeling suffocated. And here's the honest truth. When you don't protect your emotional energy, you train her to expect unlimited access to it. That might feel good in the moment, but over time, it erodes the very respect and attraction that keep her interested. So start paying attention to how you respond to her moods, requests, and expectations. Recognize when you're giving too much of yourself in ways that aren't reciprocal. Protect your emotional state, like you protect your time, your work, and your priorities. A man who knows and protects his emotional boundaries is a man women notice, respect, and want to invest in. 3. Don't tolerate disrespect. Ever. Let's be honest, women notice everything. The way a man talks to us, the way he responds when we challenge him, even how he handles small irritations, it all matters. Disrespect is like a flashing warning light. When a man tolerates it, we notice, and not in a flattering way. It sends a clear signal. He doesn't value himself enough to enforce his own standards, and that's a huge turn-off. Respect isn't just about manners. It's about standing your ground, holding your boundaries, and refusing to accept behavior that diminishes your value. If she interrupts you constantly, dismisses your opinions, or speaks to you in a way that feels belittling, your response in that moment sets the tone for everything that follows. Women test boundaries instinctively, not to be mean, but to gauge whether a man respects himself. If you flinch or give in, it becomes habitual, and she starts to assume she can push further. Here's the thing most men miss. Enforcing respect doesn't mean being harsh or controlling. It means speaking up, calmly but firmly, and making it clear that certain behaviors aren't acceptable. It also means walking away when necessary, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. Women are drawn to men who carry themselves with integrity and who won't let anyone, including a woman they like, overstep. That's what makes a man magnetic. Disrespect comes in many forms, and sometimes it's subtle. Maybe she's late all the time and brushes it off, or she teases you in a way that crosses a line. These small signals can add up quickly. A man who tolerates them early trains a woman to expect compromise at the cost of his own dignity. On the other hand, a man who quietly but firmly sets limits communicates a deeper kind of confidence, one that is incredibly attractive because it's rare. Women want a partner who is strong enough to protect himself emotionally and mentally. We don't want someone who explodes at the slightest provocation, but we also don't want someone who crumbles the moment a boundary is tested. Knowing the difference and responding appropriately is key. So, recognize the moments when disrespect shows up and act decisively. Make it clear what you will and won't accept, and hold that line consistently. The truth is, women respect and even admire men who enforce their own standards. They may not always say it outright, but it drives deeper attraction and builds the foundation for a healthy dynamic. 4. Keep your independence. No matter what. One of the fastest ways a man loses respect in a relationship is by losing himself. When a man becomes too focused on a woman, rearranging his life around her, or constantly seeking her approval, it kills the attraction almost instantly. Women aren't drawn to neediness. We're drawn to independence. We want a man who has a life, passions, and purpose beyond just dating us. Independence isn't about being distant or cold. It's about having your own priorities and making them clear. When a man has his own routines, friendships, hobbies, and goals, it communicates strength. It tells a woman that you are not defined by her, that your world doesn't revolve solely around her moods or desires. That's a subtle but powerful form of attraction. Here's the truth men rarely hear. A man who gives up his independence too soon signals weakness. We notice when you cancel your plans to spend extra time with us, when you agree to everything we want, or when you lose your social life just to keep the relationship smooth. It might feel like you're being a good boyfriend, but what you're really doing is eroding your own value. Women don't respect a man who is easily molded to their wants. We respect a man who stands firm in who he is. Maintaining independence also sets a healthy dynamic for the relationship. It prevents her from taking you for granted and keeps the connection fresh. When you have your own interests, she's more likely to invest effort into spending quality time with you instead of assuming you're always available. Independence forces balance. She starts to appreciate your presence rather than seeing it as a given. Another key point: independence is magnetic because it reflects confidence. A man who is secure in himself doesn't need constant validation from a woman. That confidence creates desire. We notice it, even if we don't consciously articulate it. It's not about ego. It's about self-respect and self-sufficiency. So, protect your independence. Keep your friendship strong, pursue your goals, and maintain routines that give your life structure. Be present in the relationship, but don't let it consume you. A woman who sees that you have a full, meaningful life naturally respects you more, desires your attention, and values your presence in a way she won't if you've lost yourself trying to please her. Remember, independence isn't optional if you want her to respect and value you. It's one of the strongest boundaries a man can set early in a relationship, and it shapes the way she perceives your worth from the very beginning. 5. Say no without feeling guilty. Men often struggle with saying no, especially early in a relationship. There's this idea that if you don't agree to everything she wants, you'll lose her interest. But here's the truth. Saying no, and meaning it, is one of the most attractive things you can do. Women want a man who has limits, who knows what he will and won't tolerate, and who can stand firm without apology. I remember a guy who constantly agreed to every spontaneous plan his girlfriend suggested. She wanted him to go to a late-night party, even though he had work the next morning. She asked him to cancel a weekend with his friends to spend extra time with her. At first, he said yes to everything. She was happy, sure, but after a while, she started losing respect for him. She sensed that he had no limits and could be pulled in any direction. It wasn't attractive. It was convenient. Then one night, he said no. He explained that he couldn't go out because he had important plans for himself the next day. He wasn't rude or dismissive. He just set a boundary. And you know what happened? She respected him more. She even looked at him differently, with interest, curiosity, and a touch of admiration. Saying no didn't push her away. It made her see that he valued himself and his priorities. Here's the key insight. Saying no isn't about control or being difficult. It's about showing that your needs, time, and energy matter. It communicates strength and self-respect. Women are wired to notice this because it shows you aren't a pushover, that you won't let anyone manipulate or take advantage of you. It also establishes the dynamic early on. She knows she can't push past your limits without consequence. Guilt is the biggest barrier. Many men feel guilty for setting boundaries, fearing they'll hurt her feelings or make her upset. But here's the reality. A woman who truly values you will not be offended by a firm no. She may push or test at first, but if you remain consistent, she will respect you more than ever. And the relationship will be healthier because it's built on mutual respect rather than convenience or manipulation. So, start practicing saying no early. Protect your time, your energy, and your priorities. Do it calmly, confidently, and without over-explaining. Women notice when a man is clear about his boundaries, and it makes you far more magnetic than endless agreement ever could. Saying no isn't rejection. It's a declaration that your life matters, and that makes her see you as a man worth respecting and wanting. 6. Know when to walk away. One of the toughest boundaries for men to set, but also one of the most important, is knowing when to walk away. Too many men stick around in relationships where their value is ignored, their time is disrespected, or their boundaries are constantly crossed. That's not loyalty. That's weakness disguised as patience. Here's the truth from a woman's perspective. When a man knows his worth and walks away, if it's not being respected, it creates immediate attraction and respect. We notice it instinctively. Walking away isn't about being petty or reactive. It's about self-respect. It signals that you won't settle for less than what you deserve, and that your life isn't dependent on someone else's approval or affection. Women are naturally drawn to men who are decisive. If you tolerate repeated disrespect, lack of effort, or boundary violations, you teach her that she can take you for granted. On the other hand, when a man walks away rather than compromising his standards, it makes us pause. Suddenly, we see him as rare, confident, and self-assured, someone who won't bend for anyone, no matter how much we like him. Walking away also protects your emotional and mental energy. It's easy to get trapped in frustration or resentment when your boundaries aren't honored. Over time, that erodes attraction and creates tension that neither of you wants. A man who recognizes this and takes action by stepping back or leaving entirely maintains his dignity, preserves his energy, and reinforces the standard that he will not be mistreated. Another point men often overlook is that walking away doesn't always mean ending the relationship permanently. Sometimes it's about creating space, enforcing a boundary, and letting the woman realize that her behavior has consequences. The key is consistency. If she sees that certain actions result in you walking away or withdrawing attention, she learns quickly what's acceptable. Ultimately, the boundary isn't just about her, it's about you. Knowing when to walk away requires clarity about your values, standards, and what you will tolerate. If you respect yourself enough to leave situations where you're undervalued, it strengthens your presence in the relationship. You become a man who isn't easily shaken, who commands respect without having to demand it, and who women naturally admire and desire. Walking away is uncomfortable, yes, but the payoff is immense. Self-respect, attraction, and a relationship dynamic where your boundaries are honored. And if a woman truly values you, she will adjust her behavior, not your worth. 7. Make her earn your attention. Here's the hard truth most men refuse to hear. If you give your attention too freely, you become disposable. Women notice when a man is constantly available, always responding, always agreeing, always chasing. It doesn't make you lovable, it makes you ordinary. Attraction isn't about doing everything she wants, it's about making her invest effort into the connection. I see it all the time. A man texts constantly, replies instantly, drops his plans to accommodate hers, and assumes that this will guarantee her loyalty or affection. The result? She takes it for granted. She doesn't even have to think about valuing him because he's doing all the work. Men often confuse being attentive with being attractive. They are not the same thing. True attraction comes from scarcity, confidence, and boundaries. Making her earn your attention doesn't mean being cruel or manipulative. It means creating a balance where she has to show genuine interest and respect for your time. If she wants to spend time with you, she should make an effort. If she wants your emotional support, she should reciprocate. When a man enforces this, it changes the dynamic completely. Suddenly, she can't just coast. She has to engage, prove she cares, and show that she values you as much as you value yourself. Here's the wake-up call. Many men are so afraid of losing a woman that they sacrifice their own standards. They tolerate disrespect, ignore boundary violations, and chase attention that should be earned. This is the fastest way to lose attraction, even if she seems interested at first. Women are drawn to men who know their worth and refuse to compromise it. If you don't protect your attention, she will walk all over you without a second thought. Action matters. Set limits on your availability. Don't respond instantly to every message. Keep your own plans and interests. Let her see that your attention is valuable and that she has to earn it. It's not about punishment. It's about creating a dynamic where respect and attraction can grow naturally. If you take nothing else from this, understand this. Men who make their attention free and unconditional lose power. Men who make their attention earned command respect, spark desire, and create relationships where both parties invest equally. Women notice this instantly. It's subtle, but it's powerful. And it's one of the most overlooked boundaries a man can set early in a relationship. Let me be completely honest with you. If you don't set these boundaries early, you're not just risking her respect, you're risking your own self-worth. A woman will unconsciously test, push, and pull until she knows where the line is. If you don't have one, she'll cross it. And when that happens, you'll wonder why attraction fades, why she starts taking you for granted, or why she drifts away, all while thinking you did everything right. Here's the real truth. Attraction and respect aren't given automatically. They're earned, but not by her alone, by you too. By protecting your time, your energy, your independence, and your attention, you create a dynamic where she has to value you or she loses you. These boundaries aren't about being cold or controlling. They're about showing that you are a man who respects himself and demands the same in return. That's magnetic. That's rare. And that's what keeps a woman truly interested. I want you to think about which of these boundaries you're already ignoring. Which ones are costing you respect or attraction? Take action today, because a man who sets boundaries is a man who is noticed, desired, and never walked over. I'd love to hear your experiences. Which boundary have you struggled to set? Which one changed a relationship when you finally enforced it? Drop a comment below. I read them all, and I want to engage with you. Let's talk about the truth of dating from a female perspective so you can stop being walked over and start being respected.